So it's 10:02, so anybody else was going to come on this agenda item, they would have been here by now. So it's the new undersheriff salary discussion, possible action item. So that came up. Are you waiting for us to decide what we can do with his longevity, or have you actually hired an undersheriff?
No, we're waiting on what we discussed before, so, I mean, he seems to be on board with it, happy to come, so, you know, it's just, if he can financially afford it, and at the 23 he could, he said, so.
And besides, and then that would make him be not being paid less than his deputies that he's supervising.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Probably want to kind of explain what it is.
For the camera?
For the camera, so that the
Okay.
public knows what we're talking about.
Yeah. So Sheriff Boone has been the acting sheriff since November?
Yeah.
And has been operating without any undersheriff underneath to help with the management. And the sheriff and undersheriff are considered management, so they are not union. And the sheriff has decided to appoint an undersheriff who's from out of the county, out of the area, so that would be fresh blood, so to speak. And this gentleman has quite a length of experience. Here's his resume and his training records dating back to April of 1987 in the academy. So he has 31 years of Missoula PD, Ravalli County SO, and for
DCI.
and DCI.
Yep.
So then the issue that came up was that since management does not receive union benefits, that the state statute that regulates sheriff's pay and undersheriff pay and deputy pay, and it's 95% for the undersheriff and 92 for the deputies. 90. And then they get their
longevity, or well, not longevity. Well, they get longevity, all of them do, but the shift differential and their cert pay,
and yeah,
which would put them like 35 cents an hour more than the undersheriff.
yeah. So to remedy that that issue, that unequal situation where the undersheriff managing deputies is actually being paid less than they are, and also maybe to attract this 31-year veteran, the Mr. Boone was wondering if there was a way that we could make it so that his pay was a little bit more, but statutorily we can't really work with it, and we can't really give him the union benefits, because that was the whole reason why MACO recommended not doing that, was the issue of deputies when they're on strike are not getting any benefits or paid, and if we're extending union benefits to non-union members, then there's sort of a fairness issue there. So, but this gentleman has 31 years experience, and the longevity generated is 1% every year. We obviously cannot afford a 31% longevity honor to this gentleman, because that would be way out of our ability. But if he needs to be above the pay of the deputies he supervises, we at 31 years we would be able to offer him 0.0505%, which is just a hair over 0.5% per year, and that turns out to be then total longevity that he would be awarded is 15.6% on top of his statutory
95%.
So that would make it a bump then of $3.10 an hour. So instead of his straight in, without any experience, without any longevity, brand new undersheriff of 1990, he would be an undersheriff at 23 even, with the 31 years of experience, honoring 0.5% of longevity instead of a full 1%.
What would his,
It
it would be what, 23 what?
23 even. And Commissioner Simons inquired about the budget, and so the budget for salaries and public safety is only 79% has been paid out of the full 100%. 79% has been paid, and we still have 2 months left to go in the budget year, so the budget looks pretty
I'm pretty good on that.
able to handle that.
Good. I'm very impressed that we can attract someone with that kind of experience.
I mean, he's a good guy. I've known him for 20 years, you know.
Good.
And I think he's gonna be a real good fit.
Good.
He's real low-key and calm and easy to talk to. Roman knows him a little bit from years in law enforcement, so.
I like his demeanor, and I mean, I think he'd be a good fit for Mineral County.
I do too.
Yeah, he seems like he would probably enjoy the country
Yeah.
life a little bit more than where he's been from, so.
Yep, exactly.
Good. Sounds like a plan to me.
Well, I would like to, because that was a problem for you right before you made sheriff, that you were no longer getting the union benefits, and now you were, you know, potentially writing people up and scheduling their shifts and supervising them, and they're making,
They were making
More
more
than you.
Yeah, yeah.
and I know that typically state agencies and county agencies honor people's longevity, but we can't really afford a full 1%, so if he's happy, and if you guys are happy with this, it's just a skosh over a 0.5%, it's 0.0505.
And then he would gain 1%, just like everybody else
From this, from his
point.
hire date
Yeah.
forward, yeah,
Yeah.
however that works, yeah.
Yep.
Good. I think it sounds good.
So if we approve this, then you'll go back, and then he'll give you a yay or nay. And this is, by the way, just for this individual, if this individual turns it down, we would obviously have a whole nother
Yeah,
ball of wax.
it would be
Yeah.
off the
Just for the
table.
record.
This is
yeah.
just for this individual.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yep.
Okay. All right. Any more question or discussion, or do we have a motion?
I would make a motion that we offer Stephen Trollope,
Yep.
is that how you pronounce his name? The undersheriff position at set wage?
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to extend to Mr. Boone's undersheriff pick, Stephen Trollope, who has 31 years' experience from April of '87 to today, which is 31 years exactly, to honor his years of service at just over a 0.5% a year instead of 1%, so that we can afford him and attract him. And if he agrees, that would make it $23 an hour even for the undersheriff with 31 years' experience, granting him 0.0505% longevity for each year of service. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right,
Good deal.
yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The help will be welcomed, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So, after you
Sure.
alert him and he's okay, when do you think he'll want to be out here hitting the brush with you?
I'm hoping the first of the month.
Good.
I actually made up a tentative schedule and put him on it starting the 6th. But if he can come a week earlier, I'm game for that. So,
He lives in Missoula.
he actually lives out there by Stevensville.
Oh,
He has a 10-acre little ranch there that he's gonna probably try to lease out or something.
he would live out here? or-
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so he was actually looking at some places down by St. Regis and stuff too, so.
Cool.
He's got a couple of horses,
And you have you have a pretty young crew, so I think it'll be good that his
yeah,
experience will help
yeah,
you
Yeah.
out with getting those guys kind of.
yep, definitely.
Cool.
I will let you know after I talk to him.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's a pretty good
Okay.
deal, so.
Good job.
Very good.
All right.
Good job on the budget too.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Appreciate that.
You betcha. Yeah, I don't wanna go over it for darn sure.
Oh, you might mention your new dispatcher, get his license plates.
Oh.
Is he living
hasn't-
over here yet, or?
I think he lives out there where Munoz was living.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think he moved in there.
Yeah.
I don't know when he expires, it's just technically there's that gainfully
Yeah,
employed thing.
60-day thing.
Yeah. Oh, not even that, immediately upon gainful employment.
Oh, is it now?
The day thing is, it just if you moved
Moved
here.
over here
But
now.
didn't have a job, but, yeah.
Today's
But yeah,
payday.
sometime, I mean, if he's gonna be expiring next month, but if he's got like 8 months left, he might wanna
Yeah,
get it sooner rather than later so that people don't come.
Yeah, yeah, that's what my concern is, his rig's parked out here all the time with the Idaho plates and so.
Yeah, lead by example.
And then I
Yeah.
noticed the new pharmacist doesn't even have Montana plates yet.
What's he drive?
I don't know, he's got a little rig there parked next to the pharmacy.
Oh, he's from Utah or something, wasn't he?
Somewhere, but anyway, they haven't got new Montana plates either.
Okay,
Takes a little more work.
we're a little late, 11:05, but we'll get started. We had a conversation before, and we're kind of revisiting the issue of a executive order that was presented to us to ask that the Forest Service, actually what this letter would go to the President of the United States and ask them to have all the lands or designated wilderness to be treated fairly when they're in the recommended and the wilderness study. Mike, is that how you understand this?
I think it's just RWAs, ain't it?
Mhm.
I think it was both there.
It says both.
Yeah, I think it was both.
It
Yeah.
says both.
I know it says on the border itself, it says wilderness burn, or wilderness study areas.
So it's clearly got both.
Basically saying while the land is in that state of recommended or WSA, that some of the original uses be allowed unless they're deemed to be detrimental to the natural state of the area. Did you get a chance to read this, Representative Logie?
I did not.
I have a copy right here, which you're welcome to look at. Or get a copy of it if you want it, Billy.
Actually, I think I might have read it on the computer, but I didn't refresh.
Did you guys get a chance to read it? No. It's a lot of that legalese and back top stuff, you know, roundabout stuff.
That was my father with it. That's it.
That's the thing, you understand it, you don't know why. Document in your dictionary, your thesaurus.
Almost. To dig out what he's really saying.
Yeah, section 4 says WSAs will be managed to protect and preserve those characteristics which make them eligible for future designation by Congress as wilderness. No use, activity, or improvement shall be permitted that degrades wilderness attributes to the point that it causes long-term impairment of the WSA's suitability for designation as wilderness. And then subsection B says agency plans shall consider other forms of recreation and transport in WSAs without regard to whether the same would be allowed in formally designated wilderness, including but not limited to hiking, horseback riding, boating, bicycling, or hand cars. So those things would be if it actually was decreed wilderness, but in the meantime, they are to be allowed.
So, Roman, will you also read the section where it says the other usages that would be allowed?
The purpose of such recommendations, meaning wilderness study areas or national wilderness preservation systems, is to identify additions to and to prevent degradation of their wilderness character pending congressional action on the recommendation. In some instances, Congress has failed to act on the recommendations for many years, creating confusion for agency land managers and the public over the nature and extent of use of these lands. Some units have allowed multiple use of these lands in accordance with governing law, so long as such uses do not diminish wilderness character, while other units have managed these areas in a manner stated in or purportedly extrapolated form. The Wilderness Act prohibiting uses such as motorized vehicles, bicycles, wheelchairs, hand carts, and chainsaws. The purpose of this order is to establish consistent policies for the management and appropriate use of the lands identified in legislation or agency land management plans as potential additions to the National Wilderness Preservation System. Well, generally, when you weren't here, the gentleman that brought this in, Stan Spencer, said that there were some Forest Service rangers and regions that, while the area is either recommended or a wilderness study area, that they were banning, as if it already was wilderness, the use of wheelchairs, hand carts, bicycles, etc., or any other motorized vehicles. And some places were still letting the original uses of the forest be allowed as long as they weren't negatively impacting the wilderness area. So, being that this gentleman's a snowmobiler, he thought that since it was originally okay to ride a snowmobile up there, simply by this area being recommended for wilderness shouldn't make it be wilderness already and should be enforced as some of the other forests do, while still allowing hand carts, chainsaws, wheelchairs, and snow. But a vehicle that obviously, through their studies and understanding, creates substantial harm, erosion, dirt bikes, or whatever, they would not. That's his argument.
And I remember years ago, the snowmobiles were, it was treated like this.
1996 is when they changed, the Region 1 went to this policy.
Diane?
It's my understanding from reading that and from what Stan said last week that it would include four-wheelers and, motorized vehicles, guns, and I'm sure guns are, I don't know about the hunting laws, again, I don't know what's allowed up there as far as hunting, but guns, chainsaws. So motorized vehicles, I would think, would be four-wheelers and dirt bikes, right?
Well, motorized.
That's the way I read that. And that's sort of what Stan indicated.
In 1996, did they allow four-wheelers
No.
and dirt bikes?
Well,
up there?
this was 86,
They were
wasn't
kicked
it?
out in 81.
And I thought he was saying when did the WSA, when was it put in?
Well, and it's not a WSA, it's a recommended wilderness area.
I thought it was a wilderness study area.
The Great Burn is,
Well,
Motorbikes were kicked out in 81, 82.
So do you think this includes motorbikes and four-wheelers?
No, I don't think motorbikes. Congress those guys up above know the battle that's going on.
Because I would want to make sure, that's one of my concerns,
Well, if you look down on D of that.
B, is that what you're looking at? B or D?
Letter D of the second page, said the fact that established uses occurred prior to the WSA's designation creates presumption that those uses can be allowed to continue at historic levels without long-term impairment. And that included hunting, including use of firearms, various forms of recreation, motorized and non-motorized. Aviation, access to private land, access to and use of livestock grazing. So, according to that, the historic use, there wasn't the ATVs like there are now, but there were some motorcycles that I'm sure used,
But-
historic.
But then in B, it also says agency plans
Agencies will choose.
shall address each recreation pursuit and evaluate its potential impacts. A reasoned decision will be made as to when, where, and how each type of recreation may or may not take place, utilizing the NEPA process normally utilized by the agency and examining the potential for long-term impairment of wilderness attributes. A determination to restrict or prohibit such recreation shall be individually supported in the record, including but not necessarily limited to a specific finding of the long-term impairment of the WSA's suitability for designation as wilderness that is directly caused by the motorized recreation. So,
So each area is going to be studied prior to allowing those types of recreation in there?
I would think that would be done under your updated travel plan, would it not? Stan?
Well, they tried.
Yeah, Bert?
But we have.
So, possibly each and every place will be studied and they will follow NEPA, but they're given 3 months under Section 5 agency guidance. They're given 3 months. We're talking the entire nation here. We're talking the Bureau of Land Management and the Forest Service. And they're given 3 months to do this. And this executive order says there's a presumption that these uses are going to be allowed. So they would be allowed, if I can read this thing correctly, which I'm not an attorney, I haven't had my attorney analyze it. Has the county attorney analyzed the legality of the order?
she's had it this week, hasn't she? Yeah.
I don't know if she got done with it, but she does have it.
And it isn't like they've only had 3 months. I would, that's what it says here, that they have 3 months to
That's
determine
what it
that.
said.
But they've had 40 years.
35.
Yeah, well, okay,
Yeah, but this
Yeah,
is
40,
to
but
review each specific,
35 to make the final decision.
yeah.
each specific
How long?
usage, right?
Huh?
In each area.
But-
This is stating that it's to make the, for each area, the specific usage in that area within 3 months. Is that right?
Well, that's what Bert's suggesting, and I think Dwayne's suggesting that they've already done some study.
Well, they have, but I,
it's
But I
been
think
studied
partly
enough.
too is back to that historic, and you know the historic, I mean, ATVs, if the history included the last 2 or 3 years and the area had been open, it would be totally different than 40 years ago or 35 years ago. I mean, a few motorcycles going through, some Honda 90s.
Yeah.
You know, that's basically what it was then. That's a different use. The snowmobiles, historic use, there was quite a bit of historic use on this end.
Yeah.
and that's what I wish this said, was just, you know, like I said last week, snowmobiles. I have no problem with that. I think it's a great way to bring revenue into our county. I don't think that four-wheelers and two,
Well, but see, that's where I get,
Unnecessarily.
to me, the historic use says it would still be, to me, I think that's probably not a four-wheeler set foot on that legally since that time.
How long back's
Because
A2 been?
the historic use,
30 years?
Well, it makes a difference between Montana and Idaho, too.
yes, well, there, and they've
You
got,
can take a four-wheeler and Fish Lake, which is right in the middle of this same area.
You can
In
take a,
Montana, you get
you can take a
arrested.
four-wheeler to Fish Lake, but you can't take a snowmobile.
Yeah, which is, it makes no
That doesn't
sense.
make
sense.
Makes no
Either.
sense whatsoever.
Great Burn Study Group made that deal with the ATV club over there.
That just
or you
does
can,
not
or you
make
can
sense.
fly it with a helicopter.
Yeah?
Well, that, yeah.
They advertise, you know, the Great Burn advertises, they want money so they can fly and look for violators. Now, what's more intrusive? A snowmobile going through once or a helicopter, whop, 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 flying over the, you know,
Right.
the animals? I mean, there's inconsistencies, and it did say something about aviation use, historic
Yeah.
aviation use.
I'm not sure if there's a.
Well, they
landing.
used to land float planes on Fish Lake.
Yeah, there's one sitting in it.
Yeah.
did you back out, huh?
He landed, but he didn't take off.
Yeah, he landed, he didn't take off. They almost sunk another one.
And Bert, since you came all the way out here twice now, remind me, who do you kind of represent?
I'm here representing myself,
Oh, okay.
but that said, you know, I have a deep interest in the Great Burn recommended wilderness.
And what was your recollection of the history and when the vehicles were kind of limited and how that came about? Was that 96?
You know, my recollection doesn't go back that far. My apologies. But, you know, I do try and inform myself, and, you know, that sounds pretty plausible to me. I know there's been yes and no, and that makes No, very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I know that in a year or two, we're gonna have a new forest plan, and there's gonna be work at this level, not necessarily coming from the president down on us, but work that will involve us meeting with people 2 blocks away, you know, in your, the real local forest, whether they'll have the freedom to evaluate things fully. I know some of the concerns expressed last week were with the regional office in Missoula. Did you guys contact the regional office to ask them about their policies and how this would affect it and so forth?
We just tried to locate our local ranger. I didn't try the regional office, but
Often, you know, a district ranger doesn't have the authority to discuss policy.
And that- I don't
Usually
think they
regional
would.
foresters and the regional forester staff can at least say, I can't talk, but I'll get Washington to talk. Or in many cases, they can talk about their own policies. So, you know, it just seems to me that you guys have worked very effectively, certainly with your local staff, and making an effort to visit with the regional forester and say, you know, here, we've got an executive order, we've looked it over, we like a lot of it. Is there anything we haven't seen here that we should be thinking about? Does 3 months sound like a pretty reasonable approach to deal with work that you're given under this executive? You know, I mean, those are questions I would ask if I was thinking about approving something that affected someone else.
do you have any, what do you say to some of the cases of maybe inconsistency or sometimes outright hypocrisy in terms of how some of the lands are, just like the Fish Lake one, there's no snowmobiles allowed at all, but yet you can drive a 4-wheeler in there 1 month out of the year. And, or there's some stories of areas that are considered for wilderness where some of the areas do allow someone to ride a bike or use a handcart and some do not. What do you know about some of those inconsistencies?
You know, I know about what I do here, so I do know that Fish Lake is treated differently for 4-wheelers than for snowmobiles. And I know that there was a suit that would have prevented the 4-wheelers from going in there. And I know that the Great Burn Study Group lost that suit. You know, other than that, I don't know that history other than to know that Region 1 certainly, and I would hope other regions of the Forest Service have tried their best to manage recommended wildernesses in such a way that it could become a wilderness if that decision was ever made. And many Montana wilderness bills included the Great Burn recommended wilderness in the bill. One of those bills passed and was vetoed through a pocket veto. So it's pretty clear that the possibility that it would become wilderness existed. In fact, it passed both houses of Congress once. So I don't know that it'll never become wilderness. If I thought it never would, maybe I wouldn't even be here. I think maybe it might. And I would like that option preserved to the degree possible. I do want Mineral County to be a place to stay, not just a place to stop. Right now, 65%, I think, of the tourist revenue in Mineral County is coming from the sale of gasoline. So I'm glad it's being sold. You're pulling a lot of people off the highway in St. Regis. You're taking advantage of the tourist tax. You're encouraging snowmobiling, certainly around Lookout Pass. You know, I'm all for this, but personally, I do really want the Great Burn recommended wilderness to be a lot like it is today, 50, 100 years from now. So that's just my personal take.
Diane?
I guess since we're a little confused about what the order actually means, do you think we could wait and see what Ellen has to say about it and maybe make some clarifications?
Who?
The county
County
attorney.
attorney, I'm sorry. Would that be reasonable?
I don't know what the timeline is where other people, when is this expected to?
I don't know, you'd have to ask Stan.
How come Stan isn't here today? I thought he would be.
He had a lot of other meetings to
Oh.
go to, so.
Maybe like, well, I wasn't here last week. Another meeting to go.
Well, I was just curious. I mean, he was
You know, like you
Are
say.
you in that group too?
What's
Are you
that?
in Stan's group?
I'm a member of it.
Yeah.
You know, like, I know they were riding there in 76, 75, Goose Creek, Goose Lake,
So it wouldn't
because Rick
Right.
Park and all them
Yeah,
said, when
nothing
you
said
hit
we
Blue Meadows,
Yeah.
today.
you had to choose which side of the road you were gonna be on. Because when they plowed it, you weren't crossing the road. So like Rick, and I even rode a couple times when they plowed the road. You choose which side of the road you're gonna be on, that's the side you stay on. But now there's no plowing, nothing goes on, but yes, they were there 76, 75, 1976, 75.
Well, they don't plow Trout Creek Road either.
No.
I mean, it's plowed privately.
Are the snowmobilers gonna go away?
Oh, I met some coming today. You know,
Well, yeah.
and that's not mine. I definitely,
Yeah.
But you can ask the people at Town Pump, when they come in with their trailers, it's usually $300 worth of gas.
well, and I used to work at the bar at Durango's, and those guys would come in and eat dinner when they came in. You know, I know it's good for Superior. That's not my problem at all.
And that's just like we ran into 2 fishing gang guys last year. And we were talking to them. And like they said, there's a right and there's a wrong. But like they said, they don't agree with the whole area being locked up like it is.
I
There's
just
gotta
want,
be a place where people can go. You gotta remember those St. Regis Basins, that's private property. Are they gonna still be able to snowmobile there 20 years from now? I don't know.
I'm not arguing about snowmobiling at all. You know, I agree. I'm just concerned about what else is in there. That's mine.
See, I don't know.
And I just would like some clarification.
So Bert, after your little talk there, and I'm only asking because I'm actually curious, because most people I rub elbows with don't feel the same way as you do. So when you say that, like you did, that you really would like it for one day to be wilderness, I mean, what makes you say that? Why do you feel that way?
You know, I guess I just have a great appreciation for the natural world and the natural processes that gave us the natural world that I enjoy. And wilderness is a way of allowing the natural processes to take first seat. Everybody else takes a little further back in the seat. So myself, I find great value in being in country where those natural processes.
So you visit
need.
those areas quite a bit?
I do,
Yeah.
and we gotta be careful, maybe not as much as Mike.
Well, I'm just curious, and I'm asking because,
Yeah.
like I said, I'm not trying to be facetious or mean or anything, but we have so many within an hour or so drive from Missoula already. And then, given how far do you walk in? Do you walk 2 miles and then turn around, or do you go in there for the whole week? I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is
9 miles is a pretty good day for me
Yeah.
now.
So whenever I think about this, and I want to be fair,
Yeah.
I just think about most of the people I know do about 2 or 3, maybe 4 miles. They go up, they do the Heart Lake Trail, and they come back, and that was a wonderful day. And most of the people I know don't go 20-some miles up Fish Creek Park and then walk 15, 20 or plus and camp in a tent. And when they talk about experience in the wilderness, I'm thinking they act like that's the only one, and there's really several that you can do that in. And you can actually do that in the national forest anywhere you would like, although, you know, you can take a chainsaw in and clear the trail. Although, with this is designated wilderness, I wonder if you'll even be able to hike in there, because all the deadfall, without the use of a chainsaw, how will you be able to experience it anymore? I mean, all these little things I'm thinking about in my head. If I was someone who wanted nature to that degree, I would think I would capitalize and use the ones that already exist, and not think that this is like the crown jewel, the only way to save planet Earth is to pass this one. I mean, why one more?
So let me just first, if there was one comment there I just couldn't let go.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident, Roman, that we had more trails in the national forest in the 30s than we do today. And I don't think they had many chainsaws back then, but they did have people.
Oh.
People were using the trails, and they were taking crosscuts, and they were clearing out the
Mhm.
trails. So, you know, I spent this week taking pictures of a Montana Conservation Corps crew thinning land that I caretake for the National Wildlife Federation. And they were learning, they were working. Life was good. And, you know, I really regret that we don't have people on the ground on our national forest the way we should. And I see the Montana Conservation Corps and other groups of that nature being able to keep our trails open without a chainsaw, because they were open long, long ago when we didn't have chainsaws.
Yeah, although I have a friend that hunts in the scapegoats, and they're not clearing, he can't go hunting in there because there's too many trees in the trail. So, I mean, how much of these people, that's a good
Yeah.
cause, are they really gonna be able to get to all of it? And then the other thing is, if we're gonna talk about the 30s and the 20s, generally, people got out more and they worked harder, and many hands make light work, and they're all using the trail. I mean, we all know what some kind of trees they fell with just a whipsaw, and I just don't know if having 11 or 12 or 13 from an hour drive of Missoula, if we need one more that's gonna be so restrictive, I don't know if people are gonna really do what you do, 9 miles a day. So that's where I'm trying to balance this, is that we have so much land that is only for hiking. It'd really be nice to have a little more diversity for everybody, at least in Mineral County, because, you know, we have so much roadless, inventoried roadless. So I just wanted to get your perspective on what you think of the other wilderness areas, and how often you can frequent those and enjoy those just as much, or why is the Great Burn that important in that whole big picture, that's all.
From my perspective, the Great Burn provides an incredible watershed that produces some really fine trout. That's one thing it does. It is fairly spectacular alpine country, as I'm sure Mike's well aware. You know, in the winter, I'm sure that's pretty amazing. So, you know, I recognize that country is a lot different than a lot of the rest of the ground that you have here in Mineral County. You have no wilderness in Mineral County to the best of my knowledge. You have that recommended wilderness. You have some other roadless lands, but a lot of your ground is being managed for commercial timber, and I think quite appropriately.
So, yeah, Denley.
Thank you.
A little perspective back onto my enjoyment of the area. You know, I've spent a lot of time, not so much eastern part, but the western part of the county, in Ward Creek and Cliff Lake area behind Sheep Mountain. And I used to really enjoy, like, you go up Ward Creek to the Hazel and Hub Lake area and be there pretty much alone. The more it gets advertised, it ruins it for me. The experience isn't there anymore because it's gotten advertised. And we went through, when the forest revision was gonna happen 20 years ago or 15 years ago and didn't, we got into some of the discussions about wilderness areas and proposed wilderness. And to me, sometimes that's the wrong designation. You need some, like a backcountry designation that protects it more than a wilderness, because what happens, you get a wilderness like the Bob Marshall. Now the trails are all beat out because you take horses, and if you're going to get back more than that 9 miles, you probably take pack string in. So pretty soon you have this W on the landscape that everybody sees across the nation, and they go to the W. They can't recognize, they aren't smart enough to recognize on a map, here's an area that doesn't have roads. It's got lakes, it's got high mountains, but it has to have a W before they'll go. And so you end up, sometimes you get overuse by having that W on the landscape, on the maps. And to me, that's part of the problem. I see we have areas we do need to protect for the future. I mean, I've enjoyed those areas. You know, I've skied from Little Joe, come out at Saltese in the wintertime, skied the state line, and skied up on Hoodoo back in the wintertime. I used to cross country quite a bit, going to lakes. I didn't mind the snowmobiles. Sometimes it was a trail that you enjoyed using, using their trail. But I never had the conflicts either, in that it's a shared use that I think, you know, but to me, the W doesn't have to be protected, the land has to, but not that W, and that's part of what's happened is that's gotten so sacred that it's made it for only a few users, and it is national forest. And so we have to include those other users. I'm getting now, so I don't take those cross-country ski trips that would take me into that country, but a snowmobile could. But then you have the inconsistent, like say to me, a helicopter flying over, and I'm skiing, that's pretty annoying. Way more annoying than a snowmobile. But yet that's allowed, and the
How often does that
inconsistency.
happen?
How often do people want to book a trip, huh?
Well, when they
No, I'm
want.
serious,
He was
you know,
talking
because
to
like
me.
the only ones I hear are the Forest Service
Oh.
ones or the.
No, in the winter, they check, they
Oh.
patrol for
They were gonna
snowmobiles up in
fund
the great area.
surveillance.
Oh,
And that's
Of course,
what I'm
they
saying,
do
that
their
kind
own
of stuff.
Plane, yeah.
But,
yes.
but I think this wilderness designation, there has been 40 years of
Nothing.
studying.
Yeah.
And, yeah, but I don't agree necessarily wilderness is the right way to go anyway. But and I've talked to actually wilderness people, and some of them actually will admit, they agree that if we had another designation, maybe that protected some of it, and that would still allow for that multiple use and protect the area for futures. I mean, we aren't logging all our land right now anyway, so.
Should be.
Until we get to that point, I think that door isn't gonna open for, I mean, we could log steady for the next 10 years and we still don't need that timber yet.
No.
But we don't wanna close that door either. Someday we may need that, or we may need those minerals that are in there. So I think 40 years is long enough. And
And Denley, you said you don't hike that anymore, and I don't hike it like I used to. What we do now is we get on our four-wheeler and we ride it. And
And that's-
I mean,
that's what I
go
say at the
out
moment.
there, if you don't have the four-wheeler, you don't see that. You go out there and in a day's time, you meet a lot of people my age and older. That's how they're getting around
things
and
can be
enjoying that
designated, so it's
experience.
still multiple use, but
Yeah.
it's getting now, it's single use.
But that has been a traditional use on
Right.
that stretch of road, you know.
So anyway, that's my little.
And my end of that is, I don't believe in the Great Burn anyway.
Diane's first. Diane?
I just want to say, I'm not sure I believe in the Great Burn either, you know, on the record. I haven't even looked at it that much. I do know the Bob Marshall Wilderness Area. I have never been in there. And I don't know if any of my members, maybe my cousin Mike might have been in there, but the members of my family have not been in there. I also would like to say, I would like, you know, even if it's not a wilderness area, I'd like to see some areas restricted. And I have a four-wheeler too, you know, but there's lots of roads we can ride on
Sure.
too, you know, so, and I'm not
Not
against
much
that at all,
anymore.
so.
Yeah. So,
That's
and like what?
And I agree with some of the things Denley's saying.
Yeah, well, like what you said, Bert, about it being a good fish area and all that, but to me, we already have the Forest Service and the Fish Wildlife Service and all those people that do a job and a good job of maintaining those kind of watersheds. So I don't know if not making it wilderness necessarily jeopardizes that. I mean, does it? Don't you think that, I mean, whenever we do a logging job, they always have to consider the bull trout and the lynx and the da-da-da. So why is the wilderness designation somehow the save-all, when really we're saving it all each time there's a proposed project or a use, whether it be a proposed four-wheel trail or a logging job or restoration job, or they go through all kinds of paralysis by analysis.
So I'm very thankful that we're careful when we log.
Mhm.
I'm also pretty happy that some of the highest country where there's the least timber and a lot of water, that in some cases does not get logged. And, you know, it really is hard to improve on the water quality coming out of the Great Burn. You can only jeopardize that generally with your activities. So, you know, for me, the most protective way to ensure that that Kelly Creek stays the way it is, that the other creeks coming off this side of the Great Burn stay the way they are, is for that very top stuff where all the snow lands to stay the way it is. So that's the most protective. And then down here, we do the best we can with the water, and we still have good, clean water. But if we weren't paying attention, things would be a little different.
Bullshit, you were next.
I'm like Denley, there needs to be a different designation. We have a backcountry area here, but it's managed as a wilderness. That was a wilderness study area. Dale Harris got it changed before, when they had done some of this wilderness study stuff before, but,
What is that? What's that area you're describing? Sheep Mountain?
yeah, Sheep Mountain.
And now it's called a back.
It's a backcountry area.
Part of it wasn't big enough for wilderness too.
But
is
the
part
thing
of it.
is, they're advertising
Yeah.
wilderness all the way through, even all the way to 10 Lakes. That's their
It-
goal.
I don't know, does the Forest Service actually have that as a category, backcountry?
Yep. It's,
You know,
look
Bert?
on a map, I'm pretty sure it says
Is it?
backcountry. But no motorized recreation.
Because I talked to Region 1 about that designation, that category, and they said that was not one of their official categories.
There's only 2 of them. There's one here and one at
I
Anaconda.
wonder who's making it up. Yeah, you know something about it?
Well, I know a little bit.
Did you create it, Bert?
I don't want to pretend I know
Call
enough,
it-
but a little bit. So certainly, when Congress acts, Congress has a lot of freedom. So the Rocky Mountain Front, which is over there in Shoto, Augusta, theoretically, you could have had 240,000 acres of wilderness, would have been possible. But you ended up with about 80,000 acres of wilderness, and 200,000 or 160,000 acres of backcountry, which meant we're going to leave it the way it is, which is a little different than the capital W we've been talking about. So there is no formal Forest Service book that tells them how to manage backcountry. But when Congress has passed protective legislation, they've often included this backcountry thing.
Label.
And each legislation probably defines it
Mhm.
a little tiny bit differently.
And Laura, you had your hand up.
I did. I just wanted to talk about, she was talking about she has an ATV and there's plenty of roads to ride on, but there's a group of people that we completely ignore in this room, and that is the little people. And both of my grandkids have motorcycles. They can't ride on the road. Kids walk. So where are they supposed to go? And that's an important group.
Well, it used to even the high school kids. I mean, when I was in high school, we had motorcycles.
Yeah.
And when I started dating Kelly, we had motorcycles. We rode everywhere.
Yeah, and that's what I was when I was.
And now, you get these high school kids that wanna go out, and they're not in town, causing trouble, doing drugs. They're out wanting to ride their motorcycles, but there's no
Nowhere
place
to
to
ride.
ride them anymore.
Well, that was the way
Because
it,
they get ticketed if they go off, I mean, it's,
That's the way we were
But
when
do
we
they
were
have driver's
kids.
licenses?
what?
Driver's
No,
licenses?
you
Yeah,
get your license.
yeah, I mean,
Why can't they
licensed
go up
kids,
Cedar Creek Road or?
what fun it is to ride up and down the road? I mean, there's
Well,
no,
and it's illegal if you don't have a license.
yeah.
And my
And
6-year-old
little
grandson
kids,
doesn't have a license,
you
neither
can't.
does my 11-year-old grandson
Yeah.
has a license. But they both ride motorcycles, but they have to go to private property to do it. And when I was a kid growing up in 1975, we had a little, I don't know what it was, but it was a little motorcycle, we'd all pile on it. We went camping every single weekend in the summer. And we rode that motorcycle till we rode, well, until my sister wrecked it on Southside Road.
I love
But we
history.
fished, we camped, we hiked, we hunted, we
Yep.
shot guns. I mean, we grew up in the backcountry and, I mean,
Lori,
whole lives.
times have changed, there's so many more people. I mean, that's part of the problem.
I know, and so we're making the areas smaller and smaller and smaller, so there's more controversy and more congestion and more people trying to recreate in the same area, and that's where the upset comes in. If I wanna go out and have a nice quiet camping trip and there's 40 people shooting guns in the area because
That's the only place to go.
or somebody flying by on an ATV and I don't want them, you know, and I want a nice quiet camping or whatever. I mean, you're pushing everybody into smaller areas, and it's not fair. And where are these kids supposed to ride?
And
There's
when I was
no
growing
trail
up,
that I'm aware of for,
I remember going Slide Mountain, you could drive to Kid Lake. And we'd camp there, you know, but now it's all shut off. I mean, like Lori said, it's just getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
This is the most important group, in my opinion, is our kids.
Mhm.
And they need that outdoor activity. They need to get away from their cell phones and their
Xbox.
iPads and their TVs they need to get out there and get into the environment and, you know, see bears and mountain lions and elk, and they need to see that.
I agree with a lot of what you're saying, Lori, but I also agree with the fact that if you're up there camping and you don't want to hear guns and other
Yeah, that's
noises.
why I think we need to quit shutting everybody off and start opening more up.
I think designated
Everything.
areas is a good idea, you know.
Yeah, but we can't be, I mean, we're taking that Great Burn, getting down to where eventually they're gonna cut out the horses. They're trying to cut them out now in a wilderness area up north somewhere. And then they're gonna get rid of the foot traffic, because it also is harming the environment. You can see a trail
Yeah.
going through a place. So eventually it's gonna get to where the only thing you can do in the environment is look at it from afar. You know, the wilderness areas. And that's my problem, is stop closing people out of the areas and open them up more. Let people go enjoy their lives. Get them kids out from the living room, the refrigerator.
I'd like to see them on their feet though, and physical exercise.
Oh, they
too.
do that, they do a lot of that, but they get.
Especially your refrigerator, huh? Look.
They get bored easy, trust me, you gotta have a lot going on to keep a kid happy and occupied.
So
that's
Ron
the
isn't gonna
question,
take
isn't
them
it?
as far back anymore as he used to, right?
He actually does pretty good, it's me that has the.
So about 15 years ago, the commissioners at that time impaneled a group of people to draw up a Mineral County resource use plan, and has everything from recreation and talks about floodplain and community stability, agriculture, and there is a little point about wilderness. Now, this board completed this resource plan in 2004 and presented it to the commissioners, who have kind of adopted it, and it's a reference guide that we give the Forest Service to keep in mind when they're managing lands in our area, and we also, I'm referring it today, the part about wilderness, it says that Mineral County will take an active approach in the evaluation of proposed wilderness areas in Mineral County. The board asserts that the designation and addition of proposed wilderness and roadless areas has been ongoing for 40 years or more. So one objective A, is uphold the legal requirements and qualifications set forth by the Wilderness Act, including those providing for the continuation of historical uses. And another part in that same category, it says, eliminate multiple use land being closed indefinitely in study areas, even though the land does not meet the wilderness requirements and qualifications set forth by the Wilderness Act. So, we just,
We revised it in 15, so,
did we?
yeah. It was revised in 2015.
Is that available to read somewhere, Roman?
Yeah.
Were you gonna scan it and,
You can.
This?
so that's, it's available
read through it.
electronically?
Mhm.
We'll have to get the revised one.
Is that the binded one?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
The
Yep,
red-
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bert?
Lori, is there a revised one or just a couple of pages on the back with your signatures?
I think,
pointing out that
no,
you-
we actually went through and
Okay.
updated some of the stuff, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, the board.
'Cause
had-
I sat in on the revision and then,
Mhm. They had people like Jim DeBree, Dennis Hildebrand, Kevin Chamberlain, Ken Gurley, Mike Burns, Jim Schultz. But,
I sat in on a few, but I wasn't
Mhm.
part of the regular.
This is a great discussion. I'm learning a lot. And I'm just wondering, I mean, so Mike, what is your impression? How would you feel and Stan, if we continue to, so we can get Ellen, the county attorney's input.
I don't know, they're gonna move forward, and I think no matter what,
When you say they, who do you mean?
Stan and
Oh.
whoever,
It's, what's the name of their club, your club? I can't remember.
what's that?
What's the name of your club?
Oh, it's the Backcountry Sled Patriots,
Yeah.
Stan's the president.
Yeah, I looked it up on, I couldn't remember the name.
Oh, backcountry, that sounds wildernessy.
Patriots. So,
The thing is, the lower end of the Forest Service, they're not gonna have a say-so. It's gonna come from up above, 3 people. The undersecretary, the secretary, and the head of the Forest Service.
so they're gonna review each of these areas? That's what I'm wondering.
I don't know.
And, you know, another thing is noise is subjective, right? So if somebody's
If noise is an
complaining,
objective, then chainsaws can't be there.
I'm not talking about snowmobiles, remember? Remember that. If you're down camping at Heart Lake, which I probably will never do again, because I don't know if I can make it in there, but, and you know, it's 9 o'clock at night and a bunch of people come in with motorized vehicles, that's what I'm talking about.
First thing is, I'm not riding a motorbike up the Heart Lake Trail
Well,
because
no.
you're gonna end up with a flat tire.
I know you won't, I know, but, you know, another example is years ago, this was a long time ago, before Wilderness Air, well, before all this, but in the 70s, we went into Baker Lake, hiked in, up in this Bitterroot Cellar, I guess, and that night, this other group of people came in, and they started shooting their guns about nightfall. And it's pretty bare up there, there's nowhere you can go. Well, I was scared to death, you know, I mean, so, there just needs to be some restrictions and some,
I don't think they do restrict
I
firearms
don't
at all,
think
do
they
they?
can
Bert,
restrict
you
them.
know?
but that's an example of noise.
But
and
I-
then also
They've tried a
personal
few
threat.
times.
I think, and there's where the thing comes, if, you know, managed multiple uses, and that's where the management could come. You could, you know, restrict the bike coming the last mile or something like that. I mean, but the way it is, you know, everything's restricted, kind of. It's come up with a little bit better plan, so it makes it more multiple use.
But I'm concerned about it being opened up to everything and then having to,
No, that's what I
have a
say,
complaint.
you come up with the multiple use, and that's
Before.
part of the forest plan revision will cover some of that, but, you know, the idea of the historic uses and some of that, so that, you know, so we're off top dead center where we are right now. Right now, nothing happens, nothing changes. So the idea is to move this off top dead center, so that's not to say
And that
that
makes
it
sense.
can't be managed, and that's the way it should be. It should be managed, but it should be managed for the multiple rather than basically the single use.
and I'm not sure this order says that.
The part of the problem is, like when we had the forest plan here, it was so lopsided. We didn't even get to hardly discuss the Great Fern because Sharon Sweeney wouldn't let us. She up and thought she was gonna take all recreation from here and take it to the west end. No.
Oh, Bert, you had your hand up earlier, but before I kind of wrap this up, did you have one?
Yeah, you know, I just, for the sake of setting the record straight, the Wilderness Act of 1964 does not include the word hunting or gun.
Oh,
So,
okay.
And there has since been legislation passed that says you can take wheelchairs. If you have the need to use a wheelchair, you can use a wheelchair in wilderness. So that particular aspect of this executive order has already been.
A real need, or
covered.
I just say I have a need?
Pardon?
Do I have to have a certificate from a doctor?
I'm certainly
You know, the
willing to take your
airport.
word.
Yeah. So, yeah, well, based on, I did get an email from Stan Spencer, because my only concern was if we were to decide to sign this, for it to be, you know, helpful to him, and he said the last possible date would be by the end of the month, number one, and number two, that's good news for me and probably Dwayne and Lori, because we sometimes might want to think about it more, or our county attorney has not had a chance to review it yet, so she said she could review it by the 27th. And as well as, like you pointed out, Bert, maybe we should call Missoula and talk to them about like the 3-month thing, you know, is that going to be ample time for whatever burden is in their Region 1? You know, like you said, the whole Forest Service would have to do it, but Region 1 would only have to worry about their area, and is 3 months sufficient for them? Maybe, but we can ask those kinds of questions. Any other questions? Well, I guess what I'm proposing is maybe we revisit it again, not to kick the can down the road. I know you like driving out here. But
Well, if I
maybe,
didn't like driving up here, I'd stay in Missoula
Yeah.
a lot more than I do.
well, you could walk 9 miles and I'll pick you up after that.
Yeah, there's a trail.
You want to buy a place?
But if it's okay with you guys, maybe we should just revisit, have this on the agenda for April 27th. That's when Ellen, our county attorney, said would be a good time for her. If that's satisfactory to everybody.
I think that'd be fine.
That'd be fine?
Nothing said we were signing it today anyway, but I mean, I'm not,
I thought that's what action meant.
it said
Oh,
possible.
Possible,
action.
yeah, the word possible.
Delay is an action.
Okay.
Delay is an action.
Yeah, and the word possible gets us off that. Not absolute action, possible action. But before we close, Mr. Moats, did you have anything, because you didn't talk yet?
No, I'm just learning.
Are you?
Yeah.
And Lorelei, did your articulate husband have much to say? He let you do all the talking today. All right. Bullshit, anything else in closing? All right, what time of day is open on our 27th there, Lady Casey?
Anytime.
Anytime. Is the same time good for people if we do it at 11? Yeah, okay. We'll do it at 11. Our county attorney should be able to get down here by then as well. Okay, thank you guys.
Thank
for
you.
the-
Thank
like-
you.
Yeah.
Good discussion.
Yep. Thanks, Bert.
Just shows how much I have to learn still, though.